welcome to Maverrik Live. I'm your host Luke2, and today I'm joined by 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃.
Hello.
Yeah, Sassy 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃.
Never been called Sassy.
Well, I'm going to say, because we're talking about Twitter handles and their sassy nature, I thought I'd get the sassiest person in the office to...
No, maybe top 5.
You doing this? Who would you name and shame as the sassiest people in the office? Quick one-liners. You don't out anyone.
No, I don't want to be offensive.
Would you say sassy's a good term? Because I labelled it as sassy because on Twitter, whenever a company's basically giving back to their fans, because you know on Twitter people sort of berate each other all the time. You were talking about football clubs just now, and how their Twitter can be... Oh,
it seems like a big robbery. Tell you, restaurant chains like McDonald's and Burger King are really good for it. They always comment on each other's posts, don't they, like that? Okay, so if we're talking like that, yeah. I mean, sassy to me has always been like attitude, but like attitude in... I don't know. Yeah, I guess I've.
As in like, you're giving me sass. So you're giving me like, you know, it's more like grief in a sense.
Yeah. Like proper like giving each other attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of, I mean, this whole conversation is going to be is this a good idea? Because beforehand, I feel like people were sort of dipping their toes in it, and then they were like, oh my god, I'm getting berated by like Wendy's or like this random food chain just like trolled me online.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I think nearly every brand wants to be that brand can give off, because I think last show I think Aldi has become like one of the top contenders right now for having like one of those funny Twitter handles. Did you see the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃 movement?
No, I didn't.
It was a while back. It was where they were getting into like legal battles about the caterpillar, like what was it called? They had their own 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃 the caterpillar.
Yeah.
So I think they changed their whole like Twitter presence, and they tried to get a whole trending hashtag going for 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃.
And it basically, like, what was a negative, I suppose.
Everyone found it hilarious. I found it funny because all the different brands were like talking about it. I think they even tried to out Marks and Spencer's, being like, well, look at him, look what he's doing.
Didn't like some of the others come up with their own version, basically, didn't they? They came out with their own version, being like, here's 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃 the bumblebee or something.
Yeah, and in a show of solidarity to it.
Yeah.
But it kind of, it's a way of rallying people towards their own cause. And I feel, I've seen it on like TikTok as well. There was one TikTok I saw where someone just said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if all the brands started commenting on this one video? And they did. It was just a bunch of blue ticks and people just commenting down this huge chain.
You see that a lot. Once one of them starts, they all get in on it. It's like avoiding the sort of allowing one of them to have it on their own. They kind of all come in, don't they? Like Pizza Hut, it's always the fast food ones, I think, the big American fast food ones that I see a lot of the time. McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, Pizza Hut, those sort of ones.
I feel like smaller businesses, it's harder to justify giving off to your clients. If someone said, oh, you know, hey, I had a problem with this aspect of your business, and someone just said, oh yeah, well, you know, and then just sort of made it a joke or something, it becomes a little bit, it feels more personal then, if it's not on a huge scale.
Yeah, and I think obviously if you look at like the jewelry industry or the beauty industry, they're not so much involved, but I guess the way you got to look at it is the ones that target maybe students the most. So the sort of, if you're looking at say Deliveroo and people like that, they're like, it's always the companies that are really focused on that student.
So if the demographic's younger, then they feel more at ease to be like, okay, this is their humour, their comedy. They'll find a joke in it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit of older thing. You wouldn't see like imagine a care home just being like giving off.
Like someone has to care how many retweets to get free care access or whatever. It's just,
some of like that.
Yeah. Whereas it doesn't make sense to them. Yeah. And the thing is, the presence. I've seen a film last night actually, and it was or it's like a program, and it was these guys who are influencers, and they were nearing 30, and to them there's like 30 is like 40 in influencer years.
Yeah.
As soon as you get past the late 20s, it kind of you lose that demographic, and it is a very young. I mean,
I'm in my late 20s now, and I feel to myself like, oh my god, I'm going to be made so redundant in like a couple of years time.
Social media for us, we're going to be hiding.
There's going to be a 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃 who's going to be the next influencer for Maverrik.
Yeah. No, it is completely true. The demographic for social media, although we all use social media, and I think up to even a lot of the older generation now still are using social media, to leverage sort of credibility and stuff like that, so from a business point of view, but also just as an interest point of view, they are using it. but it doesn't make sense to target those people. The numbers and the money is in jokes and humor and stuff like that.
The biggest demographic on, I'd say, Twitter is like the younger population. So having like those accounts where you can, because the lifespan of tweets is so small, I feel like they can just. Yeah. You can have viral tweets which last maybe like a day or so because they're like good funny tweets, but it feels more experimental on that platform, whereas I feel like Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, the posts are usually a lot more curated, a lot more like polished off just to make sure everything is sort of like neat and tidy. Yeah. But it feels a little bit like Twitter's like the wild, wild west, in where it's we'll put something out there or I'll respond to a random person. It's
almost like I've seen the amount of ambiguous one-liner or one-word tweets that go out that generate viral posts because you're allowed. The problem we have with Facebook allowing such a big body of text and Instagram, all these places, is that it creates no curiosity. And Twitter is basically, if say Ed Sheeran or someone like that can post one word, people think it's an album dropping, or a new song dropping, some merch, clothing line. Everyone goes into like meltdown, all his fans, because one word is so ambiguous. And although you can do that on Facebook, it just gets lost. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, because Twitter is. You can see on your feed such chunks of small chunks of where people are posting. Yeah. On Facebook, 2 posts could get rid of your whole feed.
Yeah, and you've got like an ad in between as well, and then as you're looking at it, it's the things that will like get your attention most of the time. It's just how many like comments and like some things has.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not posting, if you're not posting a good video or a really sort of interesting image, you're losing a lot of interest on those sort of platforms. So I can understand Twitter. Twitter is basically a words platform. You do get content on their videos and stuff, and it's all great, but I think it was only recently that they actually optimized video on Twitter. It was really poor to load before, like you couldn't watch videos well. And they've relied purely on small bodies of text to generate that sort of interest, and I think they've done it really well. They rely on obviously the users to do that, but I think I really like Twitter personally. I find it one of my favorites because of that. You're able to leverage sort of curiosity and agitation to
and it's so fast as a refresh rate. People can react to things really quickly. One thing which can be a detriment to having a funny Twitter profile is anything which is newsworthy or serious. Things can get sort of there's a lot of bubbles of people on it. And they have these brigades, which can then like turn into like hate brigades on certain topics and certain themes. There seems like a lot more like the split nature of Twitter.
I think the reason you'll always, when like celebrities and stuff get found out for old tweets, people have been sacked for old tweets in the past. It's always Twitter, because not only is Twitter itself, as in the word, what you post is agitating, the comments are agitating, like the people, especially if you're a celebrity or you're not used to that, you say you're new to that world, the fans they bombard you with DMs, they bombard you with retweets with certain words and stuff. Yeah. And like you said, it is a really toxic community for it. Like you have got to be strong-willed to be able to sort of keep away from that.
Yeah, because like I said, because of the frequency of people on it and all the amount of people on it as well, it can turn into like this big
and the ambiguous
thing.
Ambiguity. Is that a word? Yeah. And that means that basically people will interpret it how they want. It's not always positive. Sometimes it's negative. So once you put something on social media, even now when I've applied for jobs, that they look back through your social media, and I've had it brought up in my interview before. So once it's up for good. So I'm going to sit in an interview, explain what bussing means. Yeah. I was 14.
It was a different time.
Yeah. And that's true, it really was. Every year we're seeing such growth from humans in terms of the way we treat each other, the way we act, the way we are on social media.
Yeah, I think we mentioned before, like words have different meanings a lot of the time, different context for different like scenarios.
Yeah.
You're going to say one thing you say at the time, which kind of completely no relevance to something else, can then be added on to another thing that's happening. It can just cause a great amount of chaos. But in terms of like, this is meant to be a sassy Twitter account.
Yeah. So
having fun for fun's sake.
Yeah, and you see that with like McDonald's and stuff. They've got to be so careful that they're trying to have fun, because if they went down a serious point of view, their opinions could always be taken too strongly. Yeah. So I think Sassy is great. Like we need all companies showing that personal touch and like being funny and stuff is such a good way to resonate with fans.
It's definitely backfired before, but it doesn't mean it's not worth taking the risk, I'd say, to try and communicate a little bit more friendly, a little bit more personal, and just have some fun with it.
Especially when there's been so much negativity in the last couple of years, and mindset problems, that if they can lead by example, and the amount of following they have, them posting something with a bit of motivation can really change. Even if they do it in a sassy way, is just any positive vibes that they give out is going to be positive to the rest of us.
We appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming down, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching Maverrik Live today. And don't forget to subscribe to us if you're enjoying the content, and like us and follow us on all of our social media platforms. I don't like list them all the time because I always mess it up. But thank you again for watching. Thanks for coming down, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.